program F, I think, of Ayub. They lie all night, naked without clothing, and have no covering in the cold. They are wet with the showers of the mountains, and embrace the rock for want of a shelter. They are that pluck the fatherless from the breast, and take a pledge of the poor, so that they go about naked without clothing, and being a-hungered they carry the sheaves. They make oil within the walls of these men. They tread their wine presses, and suffer thirst. From out of the populous city men groan, and the soul of the wicked, and the soul of the wounded crieth out. Yet divinity imputeth it not for folly. These are of them that rebel against the light. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. The murderer riseth with the light. He killeth the poor and needy, and in the night he is as a thief. The eye also of the adulterer waiteth for the twilight, saying, No eye shall see me. And he disguiseth his face. In the dark they dig through houses. They shut themselves up in the daytime. They know not the light, for the morning is to all of them as the shadow of death. For they know the terrors of the shadow of death. He is swift among the face of the waters. Their portion is cursed in the earth. He turneth not by the way of the vineyards. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So doth Sheol those which have sinned. The womb shall forget him. The worm shall feed sweetly on him. He shall be no more remembered, and unrighteousness shall be broken as a tree. He devoureth the barren that beareth not, and doth not good to the widow. He draweth away the mighty also by his power. He riseth up, and no man is sure of life. God giveth them to be in security, and they rest thereon. And his eyes are upon their ways. They are exalted, yet a little while, and they are gone. Yea, they are brought low, they are taken out of the way, as all other, and are cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. Well, they mean like wheat and stuff, not the, the yellow thing. Well, there's white corn and red corn, and purple corn, and but you know what I mean. And if it be not so now, who will prove me a liar and make my speech nothing worth? Bildad the Shuhim is supposed to have said, Dominion and fear are with him. He maketh peace in his high places. Is there any number of his armies? And upon whom doth not his light arise? How then can man be just with God, or how can he be clean that is born of a woman? Behold, even the moon hath no brightness, and the stars are not pure in his sight. How much less man that is a worm, and the Son of Man which is a worm. Sheol is naked before him. Abaddon hath no covering. He stretcheth out the north over empty space, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. He bindeth up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under them. He closeth in the face of his throne, and spreadeth his cloud upon it. He hath described a boundary upon the face of the waters, unto the confines of light and darkness. The pillars of heaven tremble, and are astonished at his rebuke. He stirreth up the sea with his power, And by his understanding he smiteth through Rahab. By his spirit the heavens are garnished, his hand hath pierced the swift serpent. Lo, these are but the outskirts of his ways, and how small a whisper do we hear of him. But the thunder of his power, who can understand? Ayub is supposed to have said, How hast thou helped him that is without power? How hast thou saved the arm that hath no strength? How hast thou counseled him that hath no wisdom, and plentifully declared sound knowledge? To whom hast thou uttered words, and whose spirit came forth from thee? They that are deceased tremble beneath the water, and the inhabitants thereof, as God liveth, who hath taken away my right, and the Almighty, who hath vexed my soul. For my life is yet whole in me, and the spirit of divinity is in my nostrils. Spirit belonging to divinity, but Surely my lips shall not speak unrighteousness, neither shall my tongue utter deceit. Divinity forbid that I should justify you. Till I die, I will not put away mine integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me, so long as I live. Zophar the Namathim. Let mine enemy be as the wicked, and let him that riseth up against me be as the unrighteous. For what is the hope of the godless? Though he get him gain, when God taketh away his soul, will God hear his cry? When trouble cometh upon him, will he delight himself in the Almighty, and call upon divinity at all times? I will teach you concerning the hand of God, that which is with the Almighty. Almighty, divinity, God, same being, right? Will I not conceal? Behold, all ye yourselves have seen it. Why then are ye become altogether vain? This is the portion of a wicked man with God, and the heritage of oppressors, which they receive from the Almighty. If his children be multiplied, it is for the sword, and his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. Those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widows shall make no lamentation. Though he heap up silver as the dust, and prepare raiment as the clay, he may prepare it, but the just shall put it on, and the innocent shall divide the silver. He buildeth his house as the moth, and as a booth which the keeper maketh. He lieth down rich, but he shall not be gathered. He openeth his eyes, and he is not. Terrors overtake him like waters. A tempest stealeth him away in the night. The east wind carrieth him away, and he departeth, and it sweepeth him out of his place. For divinity shall hurl at him, and not spare. He would fain flee out of his hand. Men shall clap their hands at him, and shall hiss him out of his place. Surely there is a mine for silver, and a place for gold which they refine. Iron is taken out of the earth, and brass is molten out of the stone. Man setteth an end to darkness, and searcheth out to the furthest bound the stones of thick darkness and of the shadow of death. He breaketh open a shaft, away from where men sojourn. They are forgotten of the foot that passeth by. They hang afar from men. They swing to and fro. As for the earth, out of it cometh bread, and underneath it is turned up, as it were, by fire. The stones thereof are the place of sapphires, and it hath dust of gold. That path no bird of prey knoweth, neither hath the falcon's eye seen it. The proud beasts have not trodden it, nor hath the fierce lion passed thereby. He putteth forth his hand upon the flinty rock. He overturneth the mountains by the roots. He cutteth out channels among the rocks, and his eye seeth every precious thing. He bindeth the streams that they trickle not, and the thing that is hid bringeth he forth light. But where shall wisdom be found? And where is the place of understanding? Man knoweth not the price thereof, neither is it found in the land of the living. The deep saith, it is not in me, and the sea saith, it is not with me. It cannot be gotten for gold, neither shall silver be weighed for the price thereof. It cannot be valued with the gold of Ophir, with precious onyx are the sapphire. Gold and glass cannot equal it, neither shall the exchange thereof be jewels of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or of crystal. Yea, the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia shall not equal it, neither shall it be valued with pure gold. Whence then cometh wisdom? And where is the place of understanding, seeing it is hid from the eyes of all living, and kept close from the fowls of the air? Destruction and death say, we have heard a rumor thereof with our ears. God understandeth the way thereof, and he knoweth the place thereof, for he looketh to the ends of the earth, and seeth under the whole heaven, to make a weight for the wind. Yea, he meteth out the waters by measure, when he made a decree for the rain, and a way for the lightning of the thunder. Then did he see it, and declare it. He established it, yea, and searched it out. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of God is a noun and verb. That is wisdom. And to depart from evil is understanding. Ayub said, oh, is supposed to have said, oh, that I were in the months of old, as in the days when divinity watched over me, when his lamp shined upon my head, and by his light I walk through darkness, as I was in the ripeness of my days, where the secret of divinity was upon my tent, when the Almighty was yet with me, and my children were about me, when my steps were washed with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil, when I went forth to the gate unto the city, when I prepared my seat in the street. The young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged rose up and stood. The princes refrained talking, and laid their hand on their mouths. The voice of the nobles was hushed, and their tongues cleaved to the roof of their mouth. For when the ear heard me, then it blessed me. And when the eye saw me, it gave witness unto me, because I delivered the poor that cried. The fatherless also, no living father, that's what they mean, or maybe they don't know who their father is, that had none to help him. The blessing of him that was ready to perish came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was as a robe and a diadem. I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and the cause of him that I knew not I searched out. And I broke the jaws of the unrighteous, and I plucked the prey out of his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root is spread out to the waters, and the dew lieth all night upon my branch. My glory is fresh in me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. Unto me men gave ear, and waited, and kept silence for my counsel. After my words they spoke not again, and my speech dropped upon them. And they waited for me as for the rain, and they opened their mouth wide as for the latter rain. If I laughed on them, they believed it not, and the light of my countenance they cast not down. I chose out their way, and sat as chief, and dwelt as a king in the army, as one that comforteth the mourners. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I disdained to set with the dogs of my flock. Yea, the strength of their hands, whereto should it profit me? Men in whom ripe age is perished, they are gaunt with want and famine. They gnaw the dry ground in the gloom of wasteness and desolation. They pluck salt wort by the bushes, and the roots of the broom are their meat. They are driven from the midst of men. They cry after them as after a thief. In the clefts of the valleys must they dwell, in holes of the earth and of the rocks. Among the bushes they bray, under the nettles they are gathered together. They are children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were scourged out of the land, and now I am become their song. Yea, I am a byword unto them. They abhor me, they stand aloof from me, and spare not to spit in my face. For he hath loosed his cord and afflicted me, and they have cast off the bridle before me. Upon my right hand rise the rabble. They thrust aside my feet, and they cast up against me their ways of destruction. They mar my path, they set forward my calamity. Even men that have no helper, as through a wide breach they come. In the midst of the ruin they roll themselves upon me, terrors are turned upon me. They chase mine honor as the wind, and my welfare is passed away as a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. Days of affliction have taken hold upon me. In the night season my bones are pierced in me, and my pains that gnaw me take no rest. By the great force of my disease is my garment disfigured. It bindeth me about as the collar of my coat. He hath cast me into the mire, and I am become like dust and ashes. I cry unto thee, and thou dost not answer me. I stand up, and thou lookest at me. Thou art turned to be cruel to me. With the might of thy hand thou persecutest me. Thou liftest me up to the wind. Thou causest me to ride upon it, and thou dissolvest me in the storm. For I know that thou wilt bring me to death, and to the house appointed for all living. Surely against a ruinous heap he will not put forth his hand. Though it be in his destruction, one may utter a cry because of these things. Rumbling in the tumbling here. Did not I weep for him that was in trouble? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? When I looked for good, then evil came, and when I waited for light, there came darkness. My bowels boil and rest not. Days of affliction are come upon me. I go mourning without the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. I am a brother to jackals, and a companion to ostriches. My skin is black and falleth from me, and my bones are burned with heat. Therefore is my harp turned to mourning, and my pipe unto the voice of them that weep. I make a covenant with mine eyes. How then should I look upon a maid? For what is the portion of God from above, and the heritage of the Almighty from on high? Is it not calamity to the unrighteous, and disaster to the workers of iniquity? Doth not he see my ways, and number all my steps. If I have walked with vanity, and my foot hath hastened to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that God may know mine integrity. If my step hath turned out of the way, and mine heart walked after mine eyes, and if any spot hath cleaved to mine hands, then let me sow, and let another eat. Yea, let the produce of my field be rooted out. If mine heart have been enticed unto a woman, and I have laid wait at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind unto another. Well, revenge adultery is not really the answer. And let others bow down upon her. For that were a heinous crime, yea, it were an iniquity to be punished by the judges. For it is a fire that consumeth unto destruction, and would root out all mine increase. If I did despise the cause of my manservant, or of my maidservant, when they contended with me, what then shall I do when God riseth up? And when he visiteth, what shall I answer him? By him, we're not saying that God is male or something, but did not he that made me in the womb make him? And did not one fashion us in the womb? If I have withheld the poor from their desire, or have caused the eyes of the widow to fail, or have eaten my morsel alone, and the fatherless hath not eaten thereof. Nay, from my youth he grew up with me, as with a father, and I have been her guide from my mother's womb. If I have seen any perish for want of clothing, or that the needy had no covering, if his loins have not blessed me, and if he were not warned with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted up my hand against the fatherless, because I saw my help in the gate, then let my shoulder fall from the shoulder blade, and mine arm be broken from the bone, for calamity from God was a terror to me. And by reason of his excellency, I could do nothing. If I have made gold my hope, and have said to the fine gold, thou art my confidence. If I rejoiced because my wealth was great, and because mine hand had gotten much, if I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness, and my heart hath been secretly enticed, and my mouth hath kissed my hand, this also were an iniquity to be punished by the judges, for I should have lied to God that is above. Well, divinity would be in every direction, but sometimes the aloofness is the first realization. If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or lifted up myself when evil found him, yea, I suffered not my mouth to sin by asking his life with a curse. If the men of my tent said not, who can find one that hath not been satisfied with his flesh? The stranger did not lodge in the street, but I opened my doors to the traveler. If like Adam I covered my transgressions, by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom, because I feared the great multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence, and went not out of the door. Oh, that I had one to hear me! Lo, here is my signature, let the Almighty answer me. And that I had the indictment which mine adversary hath written, surely I would carry it upon my shoulder. I'd bind it unto me as a crown. I would declare unto him the number of my steps, As a prince would I go near unto him. If my land cry out against me, and the furrows thereof weep together, if I have eaten the fruits thereof without money, or have caused the owners thereof to lose their life, let thistles grow instead of wheat, and cockle instead of barley. The words of Ayub are ended. Part 4. The voice out of the whirlwind. Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me, where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who determined the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who stretched the line upon it? Whereupon were the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all that are called sons of God shouted for joy. Or who shut up the sea with doors, when it broke forth as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud, the garment thereof, and the thick darkness, and a swaddling band for it, and prescribed my decree, and set bars and doors, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. And some of the terms that mean sons of God, those of the house of God, it's not quite the same thing. Those, the purity issuing forth from God, that might not sound right, but it means more than just being, the meaning of such terms goes beyond parentage. And then there's metaphorical usage of terms and stuff too. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days began, and caused the day spring to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed as clay under the seal, and all things stand forth as a garment, and from the wicked their light is withheld, and the high arm is broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea? Or hast thou walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed unto thee? Or hast thou seen the gates of the shadow of death? Hast thou comprehended the breadth of the earth? Declare, if thou knowest it all. Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? That thou shouldest take it to the bound thereof, and that thou shouldest discern the paths to the house thereof. Doubtless thou knowest, for thou wast then born, and the number of thy days is great. Hast thou entered the treasuries of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasuries of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? Or what way is the light parted, or the east wind scattered upon the earth? Who hath cleft a channel for the water flood, or a way for the lightning of the thunder, to cause it to rain on the land where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate ground, and to cause the tender grass to spring forth? Hath the rain a father? Or who hath begotten the drops of dew? Out of whose womb came the ice and the hoary frost of heaven? Who hath engendered it? The waters are hidden as with stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Canst thou bind the cluster of the Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou lead forth the Mazzaroth? Is that the whole wheel of stars? Is that the thing? In their season? Well, ball or whatever you want to say about it. Or canst thou guide the bear with her train? Knowest thou the ordinances of the heavens? Canst thou establish the dominion thereof in the earth? Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover thee? Canst thou send forth lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are? Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? Or who hath given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom? Or who can pour out the bottles of heaven? When the dust runneth into a mass, and the clods cleave fast together, wilt thou hunt the prey for the lioness, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions? When they couch in their dens, and abide in the covert to lie in wait, who provideth for the raven his food? When his young ones cry unto God, and wander for lack of meat. Knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth? Or canst thou mark when the hens do calve? Canst thou number the months that they fulfill? Or knowest thou the time when they bring forth? They bow themselves, they bring forth their young, they cast out their sorrows, their young ones are in good liking, they grow up in the open field, they go forth and return not again. Who hath sent out the wild donkey free? Or who hath loosed the bands of the wild donkey? Whose house I have made the wilderness, and the salt land his dwelling place. He scorneth the tumult of the city, neither heareth he the shoutings of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searcheth after every green thing. Will the wild ox be content to serve thee? Or will he abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the wild ox with his band in the furrow? Or will he harrow the valley after thee? Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great? Or wilt thou leave to him thy labor? Wilt thou confide in him that he will bring home thy seed and gather the kernels of thy threshing floor? The wing of the ostrich rejoiceth, but are her pinions and feathers kindly? For she leaveth her eggs on the earth, and warmeth them in the dust, and forget